The sky over the hidden colony was unusually dark that evening, even for a planet that rarely saw sunlight. Clouds of crimson and gray rolled across the horizon, casting long shadows over the metallic domes and farming terraces that humans had built to survive in secrecy. Life on this remote world had been quiet for generations. Humanity had learned to hide after Earth fell, spreading across distant systems to escape the alien empires that had once hunted them. The colony was small, perhaps no more than 1,000 souls, yet they had managed to make a home among the alien flora and jagged rocks. She stood at the edge of the highest terrace, her eyes scanning the darkening sky. She was not human, though she had lived among them long enough to call the place her home. Her skin carried a subtle glow that reflected the fading light, and her long hair moved like liquid silver in the wind. Despite her otherworldly appearance, she had grown attached to the humans' resilience, their stubborn courage in the face of extinction. But tonight her heart pounded with fear. "They've found us," she whispered, her voice trembling as she clutched the edge of the railing. Her green eyes widened as she pointed toward the sky. There, far above the clouds, shapes moved with terrifying precision. Massive warships, their hulls black as obsidian and bristling with weapons, emerged silently from the shadows. The humans had long feared this moment, the day when the galaxy's hunters would finally locate their hiding place, and now it had come. Behind her, a man approached without hurry. He had been walking among the colony for decades, a figure both respected and feared. His hair was streaked with gray, his face lined with the stories of battles no one alive remembered. He was a human, yet he carried a presence that seemed to fill the space around him. Unlike the others who panicked or froze, he did not glance at the approaching fleet with alarm. Instead, a smirk tugged at his lips, a faint spark of amusement in eyes that had seen too much death to be afraid. "Time to dust off my sword," he said quietly, almost to himself. She turned to him, astonished. "A sword? Against those ships? Are you mad?" Her voice cracked with urgency. He shook his head slowly, a calm confidence radiating from him. "Mad? Maybe. But wars are not always won with cannons and lasers. Sometimes the smallest edge is all it takes." He turned his gaze to the horizon again, eyes sharp as the distant ships moved closer, scanning for signs of life. "I have waited a long time for this day," he added. The colony's leaders gathered nearby, their faces pale, their hands shaking as they activated communications and defenses. Their strategies were simple: hide, evade, survive. They had trained for emergencies like this, yet nothing could prepare them for the sight of a fleet this large descending upon their quiet home. Panic spread like wildfire, voices shouting over one another, orders overlapping in chaos. The alien woman hesitated, torn between fear and a strange sense of admiration. She had known him for years, seen him repair machines that no one else could, face storms and wild predators, and survive where others would fall. There was something about him that inspired confidence, even now. Slowly, she followed as he moved, toward the underground chamber where he kept his weapons and relics from humanity's past. The chamber was dimly lit, its walls lined with shelves and racks that held tools, armor, and weapons from wars long forgotten. Dust hung in the air, disturbed only by their movements. In the center stood the object of her wonder and his pride, a sword unlike any she had seen. Its blade gleamed with a faint blue hue, etched with symbols of a language lost to time. The hilt was worn, polished by decades of handling, yet it radiated strength and promise. He picked it up carefully, feeling the weight in his hands. This was no ordinary weapon. It was forged during humanity's final stand before they were forced to flee Earth, a blade that had cut through armor, shields, and fear alike. To him, it was a reminder of who they had been and who they could still become. To the colonists, it was almost a legend, a story passed down about a warrior who could turn the tide of battles single-handedly. She watched him, unsure whether to feel hope or despair. "Do you really think you can stop them?" she asked softly, almost whispering. He looked at her, eyes steady and unwavering. "I don't need to stop them all," he said. "I just need to show them that humanity is not finished, that we will fight, even when hope seems impossible, that we will not bow. The first alarms rang through the colony as the enemy drones descended, scouting the outskirts. Shadows flickered across the ground as small, sharp craft scanned for movement. Fear struck her again, and she gripped his arm. "We can't do this alone." He smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. No one does it alone. But some things, some people, make the difference between running and standing your ground. He tightened his grip on the sword and nodded toward the valley below. "Come on. It's time to remind them why humanity survives." Together, they stepped out of the chamber and into the approaching storm. The sky was filled with warships, now, and the colony held its breath. Somewhere deep within, a fire sparked. A fire of defiance, of courage, of survival. Humanity's hidden children were about to be tested. And for the first time in a long while, hope felt as sharp and real as a blade in the dark. The veteran led the alien woman through narrow corridors beneath the colony, their footsteps echoing off cold metal walls. The underground tunnels had been built generations ago, a labyrinth designed for both safety and secrecy. Here, the hum of machinery was constant, a reminder that survival required not just courage but preparation. The veteran's calm steps contrasted sharply with the tension in the woman's shoulders, her senses alert to every shadow and distant sound. "This way," he said quietly, guiding her into a chamber sealed by thick steel doors. The room was unlike any other in the colony. It was a vault of memory, a shrine to the wars that had shaped humanity's rise and near-fall. On the walls hung faded banners, trophies of battles won against odds that had seemed impossible. Shelves bore weapons long abandoned, their metal dulled by age but still whispering stories of strength. In the center, on a raised platform, lay the sword. The veteran approached it slowly, as if greeting an old friend. He reached out and grasped the hilt, feeling the familiar weight settle in his hands. The blade had been forged during humanity's darkest days, tempered in the fires of relentless conflict, designed to be wielded not just with strength, but with determination and heart. The inscriptions along its length told of victories and sacrifices of a people who had refused to vanish quietly into the void. The alien woman stepped closer, her curiosity overcoming her fear. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "But how can a sword stop ships like those in the sky?" He smiled faintly, the lines on his face softening. "It's not about stopping ships. It's about reminding ourselves who we are. Weapons can inspire courage as much as they can destroy. A blade is more than steel, it is a symbol. It tells the enemy that we will fight, even when everything seems lost." She frowned, trying to grasp his meaning. She had seen humans face impossible odds before, but this was different. The fleet above was vast, filled with machines of war that could wipe out entire settlements in minutes. Still, there was something in his confidence, in the way he held the sword, that made her feel as though the impossible might not be so impossible after all. "You're serious about this," she said softly. "You're going to fight them alone?" He shook his head. "No, not alone. I fight to inspire, and when the time comes, the colony will rise with me. We've trained for this in ways most of them don't realize. Humanity survives when courage spreads. One person can spark a movement, and that movement can turn the tide of a war." He tightened his grip on the sword and tested its balance, swinging it in a practiced motion that cut through the air with a soft, almost musical whistle. The woman's heart raced as she watched him. She had never seen anyone move like that. The precision and grace of a seasoned warrior. The strength of a people's legacy concentrated in a single form. "I've seen warriors before," she admitted. "But you're different." He glanced at her with a hint of amusement. "I've seen the end of worlds and the rise of stars. I've learned that fear is contagious, but so is courage. You've already made your choice to stand with us, and that matters more than you realize." Outside, alarms continued to echo through the colony. Drones scouted the terrain, their sensors cutting through the darkness, searching for life. The Colonists huddled in shelters, uncertain whether to trust in their hidden strength or flee in panic. The veteran and the alien woman returned to the surface briefly, peering at the valley below. Shadows of the drones flitted across the ground like mechanical predators. He observed them calmly, analyzing every movement, every pattern. "This is our moment," he said, voice low but resolute. "We don't wait for them to strike. We show them humanity does not hide forever. We will act, and we will act together." She nodded, feeling a strange sense of certainty settle over her. She had come to admire humans for their unpredictability, their creativity, and their stubbornness in the face of danger. But now she was beginning to understand their greatest strength, a refusal to surrender, even when the odds were stacked impossibly against them. The veteran turned back to the chamber and lifted the sword fully, its blade reflecting the dim light of the tunnels. "This sword has seen more battles than most of us can imagine," he said. "It carries the weight of humanity's past and the hope of our future. Tonight, it will remind both the enemy and ourselves why we survive." She felt a shiver run through her, not from fear but from awe. She had seen civilizations crumble and machines dominate worlds, but this was different. Here was a human who refused to bow, who embraced the responsibility of leadership, and who understood that symbols could wield power as great as any cannon or laser. "Then let's make sure they understand," she said firmly, her own resolve solidifying. The veteran nodded, adjusting his grip and stepping toward the exit. Together they moved into the gathering darkness of the night, where the first drones of the enemy fleet were beginning to descend. Every step they took sent a message. Humanity was awake, unbroken, and ready to fight. The colony might have been hidden, but it was not helpless. And as the veteran's sword caught the moonlight glinting like a promise in the night, the alien woman understood that the real battle was not just against machines above. They would fight to prove that humanity's spirit could never be extinguished. The night air was heavy with tension as the veteran and the alien woman reached the valley. Below them, the colony spread like a patchwork of domes, farms, and tunnels carved into the rocky terrain. Drones, small but deadly, moved across the landscape, scanning for life and reporting back to the warships above. Each hum and whir of their engines was a reminder that the enemy had finally found them. The veteran crouched behind a ridge, surveying the first wave of approaching drones. His sword was at his side, but his eyes scanned every movement, calculating trajectories, weak points, and patterns. The alien woman mirrored his observation, her alien senses allowing her to detect subtle energy signatures in the machines. She had seen humans fight before, but never like this. He moved with a calm precision, every decision measured, every breath controlled. "They're fast," she said, her voice low, a mix of fear and admiration. "Yes," he replied, eyes narrowing. "But speed isn't everything. Machines can calculate, but they cannot feel determination. They cannot fear loss, or hope, or pride. We can." With a nod, he rose, stepping into the open with deliberate confidence. The drones had not expected resistance yet. His sword gleamed faintly in the pale moonlight as he swung it in a practiced arc. The blade met the first drone with a flash of light and a shower of sparks, slicing through its armor as if it were paper. The alien woman gasped, but he didn't stop. Each movement was fluid, almost artistic, a deadly dance that combined strength, skill, and the weight of humanity's history. Colonists watching from the shelters below began to cheer, their fear giving way to something new. Hope. They had lived in hiding for generations, believing that survival meant running and hiding. Now they saw that survival could mean standing firm, refusing to bow and defending what they loved. The veterans' actions were more than combat. They were a statement, a demonstration of the human spirit in its purest form. The drones responded quickly, adjusting their flight patterns, firing small energy pulses that sizzled through the air. He dodged and parried, the sword moving faster than most eyes could follow. Sparks flew as metal met metal, and yet he remained unbroken, his movements precise, almost poetic. The alien woman watched, realizing that this was not just skill but belief in the strength of humanity and the courage to face impossible odds. "Join me," he called to her. "We can guide them, show them how to fight, how to survive. Humanity does not win through fear." She hesitated for a moment, then stepped forward, her own abilities coming into play. Using her alien agility and energy perception, she helped anticipate the drone's attacks, warning the veteran of incoming strikes. Together, they became a team, human and alien, blending instinct and experience. Each drone that fell became a symbol, proof that courage could overcome machinery. The first wave of drones was destroyed, but more were on the way. Larger, more dangerous, carrying weapons designed to obliterate structures and living beings alike. Yet the veteran did not flinch. He moved through the valley like a shadow of legend, his sword cutting paths where bullets and lasers might have failed. Colonists who joined him were trained in ways he had been teaching quietly for weeks, using whatever weapons they could find. And for the first time in decades, humanity's hidden colony fought with unity, discipline, and purpose. The alien woman felt a surge of pride as she watched humans and herself fight side by side. They were not invincible, but they were unbroken. Each movement, each strike, each act of defiance sent a message to the enemy above. Humanity was alive, and it would not be extinguished without a fight. She saw the veterans of the colony, once timid and fearful, now standing tall, inspired by the human who carried a sword as if it held the weight of the stars themselves. By the time the last drone fell, the first dawn of hope had risen in the valley. The veteran stood in the center, breathing heavily but unbowed, his sword still gleaming despite the battle. Around him, the alien woman and the colonists caught their breath, staring at the destruction of the machines and realizing that this victory, though small, was monumental. "They underestimated us," the veteran said quietly, looking up at the looming warships above. "And that is their first mistake." The alien woman smiled, tears glimmering in her eyes. She had feared this moment, but now she understood. The humans of this colony were not just survivors, they were warriors, capable of defiance that could shake even the largest fleets. The valley was silent, except for the hum of damaged drones and the distant rumble of retreating ships, but in that silence was the heartbeat of hope. The veteran lowered his sword and turned to the alien woman. "This is only the beginning. They will come back stronger, faster, and deadlier. But now we know that courage spreads. Now we know that humanity rises when it is pushed to the edge." She nodded, understanding the truth of his words. Humanity had survived wars that should have ended them, had survived exile, and now they would survive this too. The drones above had been the first test, and the colony had passed. But the real battle, the one that would define their place in the stars, was still ahead. Together they looked up at the sky, filled with the silhouettes of warships against the rising sun. Fear had not vanished, but it had been tempered into resolve. The veteran's sword caught the first rays of light, glinting like a promise. Humanity had fought, and it had fought well. And somewhere deep in that valley, the hidden colony understood that survival was no longer enough. They would fight and they would rise. The morning after the first attack, the colony was alive with movement. Fear still lingered in the corners, but it had been replaced by something stronger: determination. Word of the veteran's courage spread quickly. The colonists had watched him face the drones alone, with nothing but a sword. And they now understood that survival was not about hiding, but about standing firm. Humanity's old fire, once thought lost, was awakening again. The veteran walked through the central square, observing the people he had spent years guiding quietly. Men and women who had once been farmers, engineers, or teachers now carried whatever weapons they could find, their faces set with resolve. Some were armed with spears and makeshift rifles. Others had crafted shields from scraps of metal and old vehicles. None of it was perfect, but it was enough to show that fear no longer ruled them. The alien woman followed him, acting as a voice for those too afraid to speak. Her calm, commanding presence encouraged those who doubted themselves, reminding them that courage could be learned as easily as it could be inherited. He addressed the crowd, voice carrying across the plaza. "We survived once because we were smart. We survived again because we refused to give up. Today we stand together. Today we fight not just to protect our homes, but to remind the galaxy that humanity cannot be erased. A murmur of agreement spread through the crowd. Children peeked from behind walls, their eyes wide with hope. The older colonists, who had once believed they were too fragile to resist, now straightened their backs. The veterans' words were more than motivation. They were a call to action, a spark igniting courage in hearts long dormant. Training began immediately. The veteran moved from group to group, showing the colonists how to defend themselves, how to move with purpose, and how to strike with precision. He taught them to anticipate attacks, to think like their enemy without becoming like it. The alien woman assisted, demonstrating her alien agility and perception, helping them to see patterns and weaknesses in the enemy machines. Together, human and alien were building a force not of numbers but of determination. By midday, the valley had transformed. Barricades were set up at strategic points, traps laid for advancing drones, and lookout posts established on every high ground. Humans who had never touched a weapon before now moved with confidence, coordinating silently as if they had been warriors all their lives. The veteran watched, satisfaction in his eyes, knowing that this was the real strength of humanity, not in advanced ships or weapons, but in their ability to rise, adapt, and fight together. The alien woman approached him as the sun climbed higher. "They are listening to you," she said quietly. "They trust you, and I trust you." He glanced at her, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Trust is earned in battle. We've just begun, but this is a start. Today, they see that we are not afraid, and tomorrow we show them that humanity fights even when the odds are impossible." The first scouts of the enemy fleet appeared on the horizon by afternoon. Larger warships moved slowly, scanning the valley as if testing the defenses before striking. The colonists, now organized and prepared, held their ground. Their earlier panic had transformed into courage, guided by training and belief in the veterans' leadership. Drones began to descend again, but this time they faced more than one warrior. Humans stood on the hills, their makeshift weapons ready, their eyes burning with defiance. The veteran stepped forward, sword in hand, and led the first line of defense. The alien woman moved alongside him, her energy perception helping to predict attacks. Together they struck swiftly and decisively, cutting down the drones before they could reach the colony. The people behind them followed suit, inspired by their courage. Humanity's small victories grew with every passing minute. By evening, the valley was calm again. The enemy had retreated for now, but the message was clear. This colony was alive and it would fight. The veteran stood atop a ridge, looking down at the people he had trained. They were tired, battered, but unbroken. The alien woman joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "They will return," she said, concern in her voice. He nodded. "Yes, but they will remember what they saw today. Humanity is not a species to be erased quietly. We rise, we fight, and we survive. And every time they underestimate us, it will cost them." The colonists gathered around the ridge, seeing the veteran and the alien woman together, and a sense of unity settled over them. They were no longer just hidden humans. They were a force, a symbol of what could be achieved when courage met opportunity. The sun set behind the mountains, casting long shadows over the valley, but the light of hope burned brighter than ever. That night, as the colony prepared for the next attack, the veteran sharpened his sword, the alien woman by his side. Plans were drawn, strategies discussed, and the people trained in the art of standing firm. Fear had not vanished entirely, but it had been replaced by something stronger, the belief that humanity could fight, endure, and rise again. The first test had been survived, but the real battle, the one that would decide their place in the stars, was still to come. And in that valley, under the darkening sky, a hidden colony began to transform into something more than a refuge. It was becoming a beacon, a spark of hope, courage, and humanity's indomitable spirit. The day began with a tension that the colony had not felt before. The veteran and the alien woman stood atop a ridge, scanning the horizon as the first hints of movement appeared among the clouds. This was no ordinary patrol. This was the vanguard of the enemy fleet, and it carried a presence that made even the veteran's steady heart beat faster. The ships were enormous, their hulls dark and angular, bristling with weapons that had already claimed countless worlds. Yet, beneath the alien precision, there was a hint of unease. The enemy commander had underestimated humanity before, and now, he was witnessing a force more resilient than he had expected. From the lead ship, a projection shimmered in the sky. A towering alien figure appeared, far larger than any colonist had seen before. His armor gleamed with a cold metallic light, his eyes burning with a mixture of anger and curiosity. The warlord's presence was overwhelming, his voice booming across the valley through advanced communication arrays. "Humans," he declared, "you hide in shadows and call it safety. Today, I will end your defiance. Your resistance is meaningless." The colonist stiffened, but the veteran remained unmoved. He studied the projection carefully, recognizing the arrogance in the commander's stance. This was a creature who had conquered countless worlds, yet he did not understand the human spirit. The same spirit that had survived extinction, exile, and countless battles against impossible odds. The veteran tightened his grip on his sword and turned to the alien woman. "They are strong," she said softly, concern flickering in her eyes. "They are," he admitted, "but strength alone does not win wars. Courage, belief, and determination do, and humanity has more of that than any fleet in the galaxy." The warlord's voice echoed again, mocking and confident. "I offer you a choice. Surrender, and your lives may be spared. Resist, and I will crush your colony and burn this world to ashes." The veteran stepped forward, standing tall despite the distance between them. "You underestimate us," he called back. "We do not bow. We do not flee. We fight and we rise, because that is what humanity does." His words were carried by the projection, reaching every ear in the colony. A murmur of excitement and determination spread through the gathered colonists. They were no longer just hiding. They were witnessing defiance in its purest form. The warlord's eyes narrowed. He had expected fear, submission, perhaps even negotiation. Instead, he saw confidence, unity, and the promise of resistance. The veteran's stance, the sword glinting at his side, was more than a threat. It was a symbol, a reminder that humanity had survived worse than this and emerged stronger. The alien woman moved beside the veteran. "They've underestimated the colony," she said quietly. "And that is their first mistake." He nodded. "It is. And their second mistake will be underestimating me." With that, he stepped away from the ridge and began to prepare for what he knew would be a pivotal moment. The colonists gathered, readying themselves for the coming attack, not with fear, but with determination. The veteran addressed them, his voice carrying across the valley. "Today is not just a fight for survival. Today is proof that humanity cannot be erased. Fight with courage, fight with unity, and fight for each other." Around him, the colonists readied their defenses. Barricades were strengthened, traps checked, and lookout positions manned. Every individual, from the youngest to the oldest, understood their role. The veteran had taught them that unity was strength, and they were ready to embody it. Above them, the enemy warships moved closer, their engines humming like distant thunder. The warlord's projection reappeared, his expression one of disbelief. He had faced countless civilizations, but never one that stood so firmly in the face of annihilation. The veteran and the alien woman watched, calm and resolute, as the first enemy drones descended to test the colony's defenses. The battle had not yet begun in earnest, but the tension was electric. Every member of the colony knew that the coming hours would define their future. The veteran's sword glinted in the sun, a promise and a warning, and the alien woman stood beside him, her presence a testament to unity between species, showing that courage could transcend boundaries. The warlord's fleet paused, as if sensing the weight of what was about to happen. The veteran turned to the alien woman. "Prepare them," he said. "They will test our limits, but we will not break. Today humanity shows its true strength." The alien woman nodded, her eyes scanning the colony. "They will follow you," she said, "because you inspire them. He smiled faintly. Because humanity never gives up, and today we will prove it again. The shadow of the warlord's fleet loomed over the valley, the first real confrontation yet to come. But for the veteran, the alien woman, and the colonists, fear had been replaced by purpose. They were no longer merely survivors, they were warriors, a hidden force that would not yield. The stage was set, and the first moves had been made. Humanity's courage would be tested, but it would not falter. As the sun reached its peak, the veteran raised his sword, glinting like a beacon of hope. The alien woman stood beside him, ready to guide, support, and fight. And somewhere in the distant shadows, the warlord realized that crushing a hidden colony would not be as simple as he had imagined. The veteran stood at the edge of the colony's communication array, watching the alien warlord's flagship hover like a dark monolith above the valley. His sword rested in his hands, the familiar weight grounding him as he prepared for what he knew would be the ultimate test. The alien woman was beside him, her senses stretched to the limit, scanning the energy signatures of the massive ship and the movements of its crew. The time had come. "This is it," she said quietly, her voice steady but edged with tension. "The fleet expects resistance, but not you. Not the way you fight." He nodded, tightening his grip. "They will see soon enough that numbers do not decide wars. Resolve does." The plan was simple yet dangerous. The veteran would board the flagship and challenge the warlord directly, cutting through layers of defenses to reach the heart of the enemy. It was a bold move, one that left the colony exposed, but it was necessary. Humanity needed to show the galaxy that they would not cower, that even a hidden colony could stand against empires and live. A small shuttle hovered nearby, silent and swift, carrying the veteran and the alien woman toward the massive flagship. Outside, the fleet's other ships held position, unsure of the strategy unfolding below. The colonists watched, their breath caught in their throats. They had trained, prepared, and fought, but they could not yet face the full might of the enemy. All they could do was hope, trust, and wait. Inside the flagship, the veteran moved with precision, slicing through automated defenses with his sword, each strike purposeful and controlled. Sparks flew as metal met metal, yet his movements were unhindered. The alien woman followed, anticipating threats and providing guidance, her abilities complementing his skill. Together, they advanced deeper into the ship, past corridors filled with alien soldiers and security measures. Every step was a statement. Humanity would not be broken. Finally, they reached the central chamber. The warlord waited, towering and imposing, his armor reflecting the dim light. He had expected fear, hesitation, perhaps even surrender. Instead, he saw two figures standing tall, unbowed, resolute, and ready. "You dare enter my ship?" the warlord roared, his voice shaking the walls. "Do you know what you face?" "I know what I fight for," the veteran replied, lifting his sword so it caught the faint light of the chamber. "And that is more than you ever understood." The duel began with a clash that shook the floor beneath them. The warlord's weapon, a massive blade of alien alloy, met the veteran's sword in a shower of sparks. Every strike carried history, every parry carried defiance. The veteran's movements were precise, born from decades of battle experience, while the warlord relied on sheer strength and size. Yet it was not strength alone that determined the flow of combat. It was strategy, courage, and determination. The alien woman observed from the edge of the chamber, providing guidance and support. Her perception allowed her to warn the veteran of attacks that even his experience could not detect. Together they formed a rhythm, human and alien, skill and instinct, determination and hope. The warlord struck again and again, each blow intended to crush and intimidate. Yet the veteran remained steadfast, every swing of his sword a testament to the endurance and spirit of his people. His movements told a story, of Earth lost and rebuilt, of humanity scattered and united, of courage that refused to yield. Warlord's confidence wavered, realizing that his opponent was not just one man but the embodiment of an entire species' will to survive. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours, the clash of metal echoing through the flagship. Then, in a decisive moment, the veteran found an opening. With a powerful strike, his sword pierced the warlord's armor, striking with precision and force that carried the weight of humanity's resilience. The warlord staggered, disbelief and rage flashing across his features. The veteran did not hesitate. He pressed forward, pushing the enemy to retreat and finally forcing him to the ground. The chamber was silent except for the veteran's steady breathing and the hum of the ship's systems. He looked down at the fallen warlord and whispered, "This is the cost of underestimating humanity." Outside, the fleet faltered. Without their leader's command, the ships wavered, retreating in disarray. The colonists, watching through transmissions, erupted in cheers. The veteran had not only survived, he had struck a blow that reminded the galaxy of humanity's indomitable spirit. The alien woman joined him as he stepped out of the flagship, sword still in hand. "They will remember this," she said. "You showed them what humans are capable of." He looked at the sky, now clear of the shadow of the warlord's fleet. "Yes," he said quietly, "and we will continue to show them. Humanity rises, and we do not fall without fighting." Back on the colony, the people celebrated quietly, but with deep pride. Their hidden home had survived the test, and they had witnessed a truth that could not be erased. Humanity was strong, united, and fearless when defending what mattered most. The veteran's sword, raised high in victory, was more than a weapon. It was a symbol, a promise, and a spark of hope for all who would follow. The sky over the colony was bright with the first light of dawn, and yet it carried the weight of recent battles. Smoke from destroyed drones hung in the air, mingling with the scent of scorched earth and metal. The veteran stood atop a ridge, sword in hand, surveying the valley below. The alien woman was beside him, her eyes scanning the horizon, alert for any sign that the enemy might return. For the first time in generations, the colony felt safe, but they knew better than to be complacent. The warlord's fleet had retreated, their ships scattered and damaged, morale shattered by the defeat of their leader. Humanity had shown them that even a small hidden colony could strike with courage and skill that rivaled entire armies. The colonists, once timid and fearful, now moved with a new confidence. They repaired structures, tended to the wounded, and shared stories of the battle, each tale a reminder of their strength. The veteran walked among them, his presence steady and reassuring. He had fought for their survival, but now he fought to teach them that survival alone was not enough. They could rise, and they would. The alien woman followed him through the village. "They will not return so easily," she said, her voice calm but serious. "But we are ready now. You have prepared them." He nodded, glancing at the young fighters who had taken their first steps into courage under his guidance. "They were always ready," he said. "They just needed to see that courage has a shape, a voice, a reason to exist." Today, they saw it in action. Children ran across the terraces, their laughter ringing clear despite the remnants of battle. Elderly colonists shared smiles and relief, some embracing friends they had feared lost. Humanity's spirit, once confined to stories and legends, now lived in every action, every glance, every heartbeat of the colony. The veteran lowered his sword, feeling the weight of the battles he had fought, and yet sensing that the heaviest victories were still to come, not against enemies but against fear itself. He returned to the central square with the alien woman, where the colonists gathered to witness the aftermath. "You have all done well," he said, his voice carrying over the assembly. "But remember this, today was not about victory alone. It was about proving who we are. We are not a species to be erased quietly. We survive because we fight. We endure because we hope. And we rise because we refuse to give in." A cheer rose from the crowd, louder than any alarm or warning had ever been. They no longer saw themselves as hidden survivors. They were warriors, guardians of a legacy, and pioneers of a future that refused to bow to threats. The alien woman smiled, realizing that this moment was more than just the end of one battle. It was the beginning of a new era, one where humans, could reclaim their place in the galaxy without hiding. The veteran looked up at the sky, where remnants of the fleet were vanishing into the distance. "They will remember this," he said softly, "and they will think twice before underestimating humanity again." One of the colonists, a young engineer who had watched the veteran fight with awe, approached him. "Do you think they will come back?" he asked, fear still lingering in his voice. "They might," the veteran replied. "But now we know that courage spreads. Fear does not. Humanity does not hide forever. And every time they return, they will face not one, but many, united in purpose and spirit." The alien woman placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have given them hope," she said. "Not just for survival, but for greatness." He smiled faintly. "Hope is always the first step. The next is action, and humanity has always been willing to act when it matters most." Throughout the valley, the colonists began to prepare for a future no longer defined by hiding or fear. Training continued, not because of immediate danger, but because they had learned the value of readiness and unity. The veteran taught, the alien woman guided, and together they built a society that could face the galaxy with strength and honor. As night fell again, the veteran climbed the ridge once more, raising his sword to the stars. The blade caught the moonlight, glinting like a beacon over the hidden colony. Around him, the people of the valley understood that this symbol was more than a weapon. It was humanity itself, sharp, enduring, and unbroken. The alien woman stood beside him, her presence a reminder that courage and unity could transcend worlds. The stars above seemed brighter that night, as if recognizing the courage of a small species that refused to be forgotten. The veteran lowered his sword, feeling the weight of responsibility but also the warmth of pride. Humanity had survived, fought, and risen again. And from the valley below, a quiet cheer echoed into the night, carrying a promise across the skies. Hidden or not, humanity would endure. The veteran whispered to the alien woman, "This is only the beginning. They will come again, but we are ready. Humanity rises and we will never bow." She smiled, watching the colony come alive with purpose and hope. "Then let them come," she said. "They will face what we have become. They will face humanity at its best." And with that, the valley settled into a peaceful night. The hidden colony no longer just a refuge, but a symbol of courage, unity, and the indomitable human spirit.